Hey, 𝗟𝗶𝗶𝗃𝗀𝗃 here, and we are starting day 6 of my How to Get to $1 Million in a Government Contracting Business. If this is your first time here, what I'm doing is walking the walk. I'm constantly training people on how to succeed in government contracting. And so for 2025, I'm starting a company on the side called NAICS Codes, where I'll take it to $1 million in 12 months, and I'll show you every single step that I do. Nothing will be offline and then I miraculously show up with results. No, I'm going to show you what I do. I'm going to show you when I run into hurdles, etc. When you think about a maze, even experienced people, they enter a maze, they're going to walk down a hallway and bam, hit a wall. And go, oh, that's not the right way. And those of us who are confident turn around and say, well, it must be the other way. And those of us who are less confident stand in front of that wall and wonder why it's there. I want to show you that even experienced people can make mistakes, but if you persist and you follow a process, you will have success. So just bringing it, I like to kind of do these episodes by restating where we've been a little bit, just to remind us. So I started the business on January 1st. And I said, well, what am I going to sell? Communication outreach. Then I kind of went to social media and content engagement or content creation. I was like, you know what? LinkedIn is really the place I want to be. And so the first day and second day, I tightened up on what I sell. And I'll continue to refine that over the next few months. But I really needed that to start so that I could say, okay, that's what I sell. The second or the third, the fourth day, I said, well, who buys what I sell? This is the federal agency, which contract office, and which program office. You can watch those videos. Go binge watch, right? This is meant to be watched the whole way through. Somebody just commented today. It's like, oh, hey, you're my new Netflix. Yeah. Okay, so day 3 and 4, we're talking about who buys, and I was able to show that and pulling it together. One of the things that I wanted to do, and I'm not going to share slides today, but I do want to look just to remind myself, is I was talking about niching down. So a tip that came from yesterday, which is really important, is niching down on what you sell, not just to the services. Like I'm doing social media or communication outreach, influencer engagement, whatever it is. But look for the product. I was giving this tip about how I look for LinkedIn and the federal agencies that bought LinkedIn. And then I can go, well, I can sell you my LinkedIn services. So that kind of thing. And then anyways, yesterday and today, the task between then and there was to wrap up finding who has won what I wish I won. And so basically what other small businesses or large businesses are winning it. And I showed how I was able to find hundreds of those. And they begin to become companies that I can research further to understand, what do I sell? Like, how are they communicating it? I want to learn from people who are doing it. And then also, where are they selling it? I can see not only, hey, I found this opportunity they won, but if I follow the company back, I can see what else they have won. And that's a really helpful thing. Today, first off, it's snowing outside, so I want to do a quick video before I go outside and shovel, because I might wrench my back or anything, and I don't want to miss a day with you. But today I want to come in and talk about NAICS Codes and PCS. And I'll talk about those at PSCs, and I'll talk about those in a second. Why was I saying that? Oh, just quickly though, if you don't know who I am, my name is 𝗟𝗶𝗃𝗀𝗃. I am the president of the GovCon Chamber of Commerce. I am co-founder of GovCon in a Box. And I spent 20 years as a small business owner with 2 different government contracting firms that I started and ran, and did sales. I did the actual work with the customer. I did all that kind of stuff that you're doing. So I spent 20 years doing that. Since 2018, I've been teaching this process. Government contracting is not a secret. It's just a process. If you follow a process, you will achieve the success that you want. You will be able to create a business within the federal market. So now what I decided to do, I'm still doing all of that stuff I'm doing, but on the side, I'm going to build this company called NAICS Codes in 1 hour a day. And I'm going to show you every step of the process that I follow. That way you can kind of do it along with me. You can see what's going on. Feel free to put comments or questions into the chat. I'm happy to get back to you and talk to you about it. One of the questions I got yesterday that I want to bring up today is how do I download some of the data? So I had talked about how I have a proprietary tool I built, my team and I built for our customers. And I use that because it really speeds up the process. And they were saying, well, what if we don't have access to that tool? Fair enough. Inside of FPDS and USASpending, you have the ability to get the data that I've talked about the last couple of days, get it out. So I'm going to show you that today. And I'm going to show you how to get PSCs and NAICS codes. So first, let's talk about what those are. In the federal government or in the federal market, we've been doing this for decades and decades and decades, we being the government, and we get used to doing things the same way. And so the way we define what you sell beyond words are numbers. And the numbers are called either NAICS code or PSCs. And I think PSCs is product service code or something. I can't remember the full thing. We'll find out in a second. But we just call them NAICS codes and PSC codes. And so the idea of a NAICS code is it's a North American code, and it's a code used across North America to identify what you buy. And a PSC code is used primarily by the federal market, the federal agencies, for being more specific about what they're actually buying. So NAICS codes are about the industry, and PSCs are about the what they're buying. Here's the thing: who cares? Like, you don't need to become an expert on them. You just need to make sure you know which ones are important to you. You put them in sam.gov and on your marketing material, and you forget about them. Don't become an expert at what NAICS stands for. Who cares, right? But let me give you an example of a NAICS code in real life. Think about going to a grocery store. You go into a grocery store and you're shopping, right? And if you're looking at, you're holding a Granny Smith apple, one of those green apples, and it's got this little sticker on the apple. And if you look at the sticker, it might say something like hashtag or the pound sign and then 5022. That code 5022 means Granny Smith apple. When you type that in, I guess you're not swiping it, but when you type it in at the register, it says Granny Smith apples. Put them down to weigh them, right? And so that code's there. Above the Granny Smith code of 5022, and I'm just making up the numbers, right? But then you have a code that describes apples. So that code doesn't describe the details of Granny Smith, but it says these are apples. And then you go up higher and there's a number, and that number is for fruit. And you go up higher and that number is for food, as an example. And that's the idea of NAICS codes, right? They're 6-digit numbers and they're just describing what you sell. So when I go in on LinkedIn, and I'll show you this in a minute, there is not a code for LinkedIn. There's not a code for social media. And so what I got to do is go, how does the government buy what I sell? What numbers do they use? And this is the exercise I want you to pay attention to today. How do you go find those numbers? What I used to do, which now I realize, what I used to do and what everybody tends to advise is go look at all of the NAICS codes and find the ones that work for you. I'm like, forget that. Go to FPDS, the Federal Procurement Data System, and I'll show you in a second. Go to FPDS and find the contracts that are buying what you're selling, and just look at the number they use. And there you go, write it down. And do that for an hour or 30 minutes or something. And when you're done, you will have gotten the top 10 or 15 codes that are being used. You don't need 1,000 codes in your pool, right? You don't need to go, oh, we sell everything here. You just need the ones that are around what you sell. So for me, it's LinkedIn, community outreach, communication outreach, etc. Hopefully that makes sense. If it doesn't, if I was too bouncing around too vague, just tell me and I'll try it again tomorrow on clarity. But let me show you what I'm talking about. We will dive into this. So window, hopefully I'm sharing the right screen and nothing sensitive. Right. Okay, so here's FPDS. You come in here and you can go search and do this kind of stuff. I've already done 3 searches though. I've got this search that the results, and you can see it from previous episodes. This one is showing results of LinkedIn, that major keyword. This one here is something else, and I'll show you that in a second because it's LinkedIn. But this is the second search, and this one is on the words social media. So the key phrase or the key word is social media that I was searching. And this last one is industrial based. And the reason I'm showing you this is I will come into FPDS and I will try 10 or 15 different keywords that are really related to what I sell. So like communication and outreach, small business engagement. I will try these different keywords in different ways to keep trying to find the PSCs and the NAICS codes that I'm looking for. So the first thing I wanted to show you, because before I forget, people ask me, how can I use, if I can't get access to your your proprietary tools, Neil, because I'm not a subscriber to the GovCon in the box, then how can I download it? Well, right here, FPDS has its own data download. I'm not trying to say, come to me to get that. You can get it here. It just has all sorts of fields that it doesn't download, and so we create a different tool. But this CSV file, just click on it. And when you do, it'll ask you to save the file and you can download it onto your computer. Now you can manipulate that data in Google Sheets or Excel, etc. And for the most part, it has all this data that I'm talking about. Agencies, the incumbents or the other company that has won the contract, etc. So in here, you can already see what I'm talking about, right? I can see software publishers and over here, so let me zoom in. Sorry, I went a little too fast. Right here, NAICS. NAICS is showing me that this one is 511.210. 511.210 is software publishers. I tend to forget about the name of it. I don't really care because the 6 numbers, that's what I care about. So I write that down. I say, I'm doing LinkedIn. This is one here. Over here, PSC, this is an interesting one for me, right? I'm like, all right, it's DA Delta Alpha 10. And I write that down. And so as we start coming down, look at this. So I just want to show you this really quick. If I go into this one, and let me just open up the other one. If I go into the first one and I scroll to the bottom right here, see how it says LinkedIn Recruiter Licenses. And this guy here, I go down, and this one is LinkedIn Learning. Both of them are coming from LinkedIn Learning. Both of them are licenses. But and this one's coming from Peace Corps. That's the contracting agency, Peace Corps. And this one's coming from the White House. Here's the thing to remember. The government does not actually do a good job. Let me rephrase that. Sometimes they just make mistakes in what they're doing and they're not consistent. If I looked at all of the things that are LinkedIn recruiting, they should all be the same NAICS code and PSC codes, right? And if I look at LinkedIn Learning, they should all be the same. Look how the software publishers, the NAICS code's the same, but the PSC changes, right? And so this exercise, remember, I'm not trying to give you a big FPDS exercise. I'm saying go into FPDS, put this type of search here where I showed you a different day how to do it. But basically you're looking for the signed date, last 3 years is what I did. And then, or last 2 or 3 years. And then the description of the requirements LinkedIn. So as I come down, you can see that look at the NAICS for 1 second. You see that right here? Only look at that as I come down. NAICS codes are all 210. So here, all of a sudden we got to a different one. Why is this different, right? So here, 7821 is the PSC. Let me come back up. 7820, 20, and DA10. So they keep changing on me. So here, though, let's look at this one. Why did it change NAICS codes? And I'm going to come down. Look at that right there. LinkedIn Learning, a different agency is using a different NAICS code than the one that we're using. Let me just pop over really quick. So that's really important. This is something I've taught since 2018 when I finally came out of my own businesses, being heads down, and I went up and I went, oh my God, there is no consistency across the board. I don't complain. I don't really care. What I'm trying to tell you is you need to pay attention that what you're trying to sell, a different NAICS code might be used. So hopefully that made sense on that one. Let me close these guys. And I'm going to go through this exercise one more time with you. Yeah, here. So now I'm going to go to social media, right? So social media is pretty similar to the LinkedIn. I would think it's in the same place, but it's not, right? Right out of the gate, I can see a different NAICS code, and that's fine. Development services are doing something. If I come in and look at this, though, let's see what it's saying. Oh, I know why this is not a good one, because this is not my business. No, actually, this is kind of my business. So it's a different NAICS code, which is interesting, right? And so you need to go into each one of these and check. But as I start coming down and I start looking at some of these, I can see, look at that. The PSC is a different one, and here we're using a different code. I wanted to try, let's skip a couple. Let's just try this one for a second. What is it saying? Because this one might be actually just records management. So this is a service. This is an archival social media service, but still, I would think it's in the same NAICS codes. It's not. And so rather than whine about it, I just write it down. I'm like, okay, well, I also want to be watching out for these NAICS codes. And if I come down, I start seeing some of that consistency. Pretty soon you see a pattern. It doesn't take you long. Like, look at all these ones that are all DA10. Well, they're all the same thing, but okay, Peace Corps. I'm going to go one more farther down to find another agency. I was looking for here, like another agency. So these guys use 541.512. So they instantly used a different NAICS code and a different PCS. I'm going to go in really quick and go, what do you think social media is to you? So here, this is exactly what I want to be doing, right? Creating content for web and social media. I'm like, first off, I want to find this company, see how it's a contract that's out there. I want to come find, I just want to remind myself who this is. I want to come find POW Tech Solutions or POW Tech Solutions or whatever they call themselves. I want to reach out and go, look, I'm the LinkedIn expert in Nancy Code. Can we team up? But you see how I did it? And if I do the same thing over here, here's industrial base. And the industrial base is a little different. This one's harder because I'm trying to reach the industrial base just from a social media way. In here, they're talking about, some of these contracts are different. And so my lesson here for you on this, and I know I'm kind of bouncing around a little bit, is you want to go into FPDS, look at these NAICS codes, start scrubbing it down, compare them against the description. I know that that is a one-off activity and it takes you time, but I don't care if it takes you 2 weeks to do it, right? What if that makes you $1 million or $2 million or $5 million down the road because you took the time to do this? I know companies that are graduating from small to large and who never have done this exercise, and they really don't have a handle on what numbers does the government use to buy what I sell, and they often are missing opportunities because they're only tracking these 2 numbers and not the other 8 numbers maybe that are out there. Okay, hopefully that made sense. One last thing I wanted to say to you about NAICS codes is, well, 2 things. One is it's pronounced NAICS. It's not Neil's way. The Census Bureau is the one who owns the NAICS standard operating procedure. They're the ones who provide all the list of NAICS, and they change it around. That is the official repository. In their guidance, it says it is pronounced NAICS, like snakes, not any other way. The reason this is important is because if you don't learn to pronounce something the right way, then you seem like you're less than qualified to work with the government. Does that make sense? Like if you can't figure out that the way you pronounce Naval Sea Systems Command's acronym, NAVC, instead of NAVC or something, right? You need to understand how to pronounce it. It's one of the ways to reduce the barriers between you and the buyer. Okay, what I wanted to say was I went through this exercise looking at my web browser for NAICS code and PSC codes, but you could just download the CSV and then remove duplicates, and there you go, a whole bunch that you can look at. Hopefully that made sense. Let me find out where my screen is. Hopefully that made sense. I wasn't actually looking at my screen, so hopefully it actually shared it, and I got a good video for you. If you have any questions, let me know. I'm going to continue, just so you know, I'm going to continue the rest of I got 40 minutes left in this hour for today. I'm going to continue that by trying to build a list of 15 NAICS codes and probably 4 or 5 PSC codes, because there's not as many of those that are out there. And one other thing is, if you happen to be a subscriber, we do have a tool. Actually, it's a free tool. It's a free tool. So go to GovCon in a box. If you go to GovCon in a box and you put in some of the keywords about what you sell, it'll go out and find the NAICS for you. And you don't even have to do that manually. So just go to govconinabox.com, go to the bottom of that homepage, and you'll see somewhere in there like NAICS code or something, finder, and test it out. I will see you in tomorrow's training. I got to go shovel the snow.